All right, sorry about that. I am so sorry. I grabbed the wrong paper. Anyways, thank you guys for being patient with me. I'm kind of rushing around, but we'll go through this. Okay, so just to do a quick recap of what we've been touching up on. We touched on lesson one, what happens to the love after the wedding. We talked about how the love seems to dissolve and dissipate right after the wedding. Stage fright. Part two, we talked about how to keep the love tank full, the realities of the fact that we, in our natural human experience, we have the need for love, not only to be loved and wanted, but to give love, something that we're not familiar with. I don't care who you are and how good you were raised. It's something that needs to be practiced, something that needs to be intentionally paid attention to, because we naturally don't know how to fill the other person's love tank. We don't even know how to fill our own love tank. And so something very vital if we're going to have successful relationships is to learn how to fill the other person's love tank. And that's what the whole point of the book is, teaching us the love languages in order to be able to successfully fill the love tanks of the other person you're trying to show love to. Number three lesson was the whole idea of falling in love, how it's and we talked about how falling in love, the experience and the emotion and everything that goes with the experience, is an initial step that brings two people together, and not necessarily the final step. It's not the final destination. When you fall in love with somebody and you go through that period of just heightened emotion and euphoria, it's not the final step. It's not the place where you should make a decision. Okay, this is the person I'm going to fall in love with forever. This is the person I'm going to marry. This is the person I'm going to give myself to. That place of falling in love and dating is not the place where you want to make the most life-changing decisions, because at that time it is the place where emotions and everything keep you blind to the realities of who you guys really are and the realities of how you're going to respond in a real relationship, in a real marriage, and a real love. And so that was part three. We're going to move into part four here, which begins the love languages, the the first love language of the five. But just to do a quick recap as far as the falling in love, I wanted to touch on this. It seems that people, when we've fallen in love and we come to that place of we decide, okay, we want to get married, we're the ones for each other, and then we hit that place in our relationship where it almost seems as if the only two options that are left, and it seems like this is the way it is across the board. People hit that place, that plateau, be it they're just bumping heads, they're not communicating, they don't know how to get along, and the marriage is kind of dissolved, which is the point of what we were talking about. It seems that people come to a conclusion that somehow marriage or love has been an illusion, something that tricked us into getting marriage. And so we kind of come to a place where we think we have only two options. And this is the trend that we find in our society today. People think they only have two options because of how bad the marriage has gotten, the relationship has gotten, how they both come just to the end of knowing what to do about how to fix what's going on in this relationship. And so the most common thing is the people come to two options. And one of the options says, are we destined to a life of misery with our spouse? Am I stuck here? Is this it? Is this all that's left? I mean, really, is this the rest of my life here? Does it ever get better? Does it ever improve? Does it ever, do we ever leave this place of sadness, of depression, of insult, of being humiliated? I think everybody, one of us, every single one of us has been at the end of something like this. And so that's the option number one that we seem to come to. The option number two is, do I bail out? Do I bail out, just dump this marriage off and go try again with somebody new? Okay, so most people come to a place when they hit that dead end in marriage, or what seems to be a dead end, is, do I settle for this life and just deal with it and pretty much take what I got and settle for a life of misery? Or do I call it quits, bail out, and go find someone better? And unfortunately, that is the two decisions that are made by most couples that have come to a place where they don't understand how to run a successful marriage. But there is an option number three. Unfortunately, it's not a popular option. It's not an option that is really taught or even given by counselors as an option number three. Because what happens is people harden their hearts. People harden their hearts to the point where they don't care if there's an option number three. They don't care if there's a solution. You've become so hard and so disheartened that you've pretty much made up in your mind that you're no longer going to try. You don't even care if there's an answer or a solution. And one of the dangers of allowing yourself to go there and not involving God in your life and your relationship is that you get to that place where you just call it quits and you're done and you don't even want to try anything else. And it's a sad place because it is the place that's right before divorce. And after divorce, there's nothing but consequences. And so the option number three is this. We can recognize that the in love stage, or that stage of passion, euphoria, where we just thought we were perfect for each other, we can recognize together that stage was just a temporary high, okay? And it wasn't the final destination. We can come together and realize that there still is the next step of pursuing real love. Okay, so most people, when they end up divorcing, is because they never made it to a place where they're actually beginning to pursue real love. Okay, love that's stable, love that doesn't change, love that the God kind of love, the one that holds and glues marriages together, the love that allows you to dig deeper and go closer and become one with your spouse. Most couples never get to that place because they're stuck in the sexual, physical aspect of the relationship, or they're stuck in that what it used to be, the euphoria, the emotion, the passion, the fire. They're stuck there. Never came back down and actually began to live out their marriage. Man, this is really, really awesome, important information for people to understand before they get involved. And so what is true love? What does real love look like? Well, just to be brief, real love looks like this, and this is these examples are something you can use to make an assessment of whether you're there or not. Real love is emotional, but it's not obsessional. Okay, it's an emotion that you feel and produces, but you're not obsessed. Okay, real love, it unites that emotion with your reasoning. Okay, usually when you're in that falling in love stage, you're not using your reasoning. You're just stuck on the feeling and emotion of the moment. But real love takes that emotion and brings it back down and makes it leveled with reasoning, with using your brain. And then real love, what does it look like? Real love is an act of the will. Okay, it's not instinctual. You don't just react with real love. It's not just a reaction of passion and feeling. No, real love is something that you decide to do out of the will of your mind and the will of your heart. It's a decision, okay, that's controlled and acted upon by you. Real love requires effort and requires discipline, okay? If you haven't found yourself putting in massive effort and discipline, then you haven't begun to really practice marriage. You haven't begun to practice real love. Real love, by definition, it does not need an emotion to function correctly. Okay? To truly love somebody, you do not need to feel like loving them. You do not need to have the emotion and the fire that motivates you to love them. Real love is something that you do because you know how to and because you know that it's the right thing to do. Okay? And that real love is motivated by itself. By nature, real love wants to love because that's what it is. So whether you feel like it, whether you want to, whether your reasoning makes sense to you, it doesn't matter. It's not a factor. You love because you've been loved by God, and He's taught us how to love other people that are most likely unlovable. And so finally, real love, it's intentional. It's living on purpose. That means you purposely try to find ways of showing that love to that person based on how they understand love. Okay, and we'll touch up a little bit on this. Staying on track with the time here. So moving on to lesson number 4. I hope you guys are keeping up here. I'm not talking too fast, but lesson number 4. Give me some hearts if you're following me. Lesson number 4. Love. Thank you. Love language number 1. Okay, we're moving into the 5 love languages. Love languages number 1. It has to do with words. The words that we use towards the person that we're trying to show love. Okay, Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." Okay, and those who love it will eat its fruits. Okay, death and life are in the power of the tongue, or in other words, death and life are in the power of your words. And those who love it will eat the fruit of it. What does that mean? Well, based on what you talk, okay, you're going to eat what your words produce. So whatever and however you use your mouth and your tongue in every situation, in this case with your spouse, however you speak to each other, you're going to eat the fruit that is produced because of how you've chosen to speak to that person. Okay? And I am a witness of that. I'll be the first to say, man, is this a lesson of life? We need to get to it. It's never too late to start learning how to speak correctly. Okay, we talked about how we are the products of how we were raised. We are the products of how we were loved. We are the products of how we were spoken to. And so we grow up speaking to others in the same way. Well, guess what? We have a new nature. We are new creatures. We are new creations in Christ. So it's time to settle down and put away the old, oh, I was raised like this and this is the way I speak. And no, start learning the language of love that comes from Christ, that comes from the nature of Christ. This is important. And so this is the part where you have to be intentional. You have to show effort. You have to be disciplined and learning every single moment. And hey, y'all, I'm telling you right now, this is new to me. I mean, as much, and it's hard, and it's new, but it's hard. And so it's funny because this scripture, Proverbs 18:21, says life and death are in the power of your words, and you'll eat whatever fruit it produces. And then it's funny that the next verse says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. And so I thought that was so funny because we're talking about our words and how we speak and the power of the tongue and what we say. And then immediately it jumps into, if you find a wife, you found the good thing, bro. So you need to learn how to speak to her. You need to learn how to communicate what she needs to hear. And because when you found her, you found something that gives you favor with God. Okay, and so that was really, really interesting. It really, really spoke to my heart. Anyways, so we're talking about words. Love language number 1, the words that we use. Matthew 12:36 and verse 36 and 37. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. I don't think it gets any clearer than that. On the day of judgment, we will give account for our careless words. Okay? It's your words that you use that God is going to use to either justify you or to condemn you. I mean, literally, your own words are going to either bring God's favor on you by how you chose intentionally to use your words, or by what you said and how it wasn't coming from the Spirit and the nature of Christ, and therefore it brought condemnation on you. Think about that a little bit. That's really, really intense. It means the implications are really, really, really heavy, because it brings a big weight of accountability. That don't go around just loosely waving your tongue. I mean, really, God's going to use our tongue to bring back at us the things we said. So this is how important it is. Okay, love language number one, the words we use. And finally, a third scripture here, Proverbs 13, verse 2 and 3. From the fruit of his mouth a man eats what is good, but the desire of the deceitful is for violence. Whoever guards his mouth preserves his life. He who opens his mouth wide, his lips comes to ruin. 3 things to point out in there. The fruit of his mouth the man eats. Okay? Whatever you say with your mouth, okay, you're going to literally produce the outcome of your life and your future. You're literally going to change the outcome of your future and your life as it's coming and it's playing out. Okay? Protecting your mouth literally is being parallel or compared to preserving your life. It says, whoever guards his mouth preserves his life. So literally, the words from your mouth helps you stay alive. Okay? That's what it's saying. And whoever opens his mouth carelessly will eventually come to ruin. Your mouth can ruin your life. Okay? Your mouth can... Harry. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Good idea. So, words, very important. That's the word of God. This is not Angel's word. This is the word of God. And so how important are your words? They're super important in your life. But how much more important are they in your marriage? Okay? And we look around and see marriages and see how people and couples talk to each other. See how they address each other. How careless, how disrespectful. You know what, guys? We can't do that. We're destroying our own relationships and our own marriages by the lack of respect that we have towards each other. That's what this is saying. So, moving on, point number one within love language number one, talking about words. He talks about what kind of words we need to start using if we're going to begin to salvage or protect or save our marriages and our relationships. Number one, words of affirmation. What does this mean? Okay, what this means is if you recognize that your spouse, he or she, okay, if you recognize, take the time to recognize what they already do for you or do in your home or in your household, okay, if you take the time to purposely recognize it verbally, okay, by calling it out and pointing it out, you literally will motivate their desire, okay, to do more. What am I talking about? Nagging, okay? The woman's not the one that always nags. The guys nag too, okay? But what this means is that you will more successfully get your spouse to cooperate and have a desire to do for you if you bring words of affirmation by pointing out and showing gratitude towards what they already do, instead of focusing and nagging about the things you want them to do, but they haven't done. So the guy is supposed to fix something for 6 months, and you're still telling him, and now he's doing something else in the garage, and you go out there and say, you know, you're out here in the garage doing this, but you could have done this already, you know, that I've been telling you to do for 6 months. You know, it really is. It works like this. As a guy, I'm telling you, if you went out there and said, babe, what are you doing? It looks like you're working your car, man. You're doing a good job. You're making our car look good and making our car, you know, work for our family so that we can have a good working car. You know, that right there sparks something inside the man. Wow, my girl is praising something good that I'm doing. Literally, this guy's going to say, you know, I like this. I like how this feels. Hey, babe, is there anything you want me to do for you? Anything else you want me to do for you? Because it creates a desire, okay? It motivates a desire inside a man's heart to do for his wife. Okay, when the words of affirmation come, when you recognize it, okay, ladies, it's important for us to recognize, for you to recognize that men, even though they might not act like it, it's the most important for us what you think. It really is. What the woman thinks about us is prime. And you know what? And I think for women too, whatever the man thinks about them, it's really important. Okay, and nothing is more deflating. Okay, nothing is more just discouraging. Okay, than a husband or a wife who doesn't who's not appreciated, a husband who's not respected and appreciated, or a wife that is unimpressed with the husband. Okay, there's nothing more deflating than that and discouraging than when your wife is not impressed with anything you do, when she doesn't recognize what you already do as a man, when the man doesn't recognize what you already do as a woman and as a mother. It's debilitating. It messes you up. And so, what else? Nothing hurts like harsh, critical words. Okay, regardless of how tough you and I might act. Okay, there is nothing that hurts more than what your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, husband speak to you directly. Why? Because they have a direct access and trust to your heart, to the deepest parts of your emotion. And somebody else can say something to you that you'll be like, whatever, you blow it off. But when your husband or your wife say it to you, man, it cuts to the soul, it cuts to the core, and it really screws with us. And I'd be the first to say, I'm a witness, and I'm the one who's caused it. I have cut, my wife down to a point where, it's intentional or not intentional, it still hurt. And because I wasn't being careful with my words. And so the first thing you can do that's best for us is to recognize where you're at. Recognize how you speak. Okay, we'll go on and talk about this a little more. So nothing hurts more than those harsh, critical words that you and I speak to each other instead of recognizing and appreciating what we already do. And so what is this for? What are these words of affirmation for? They're not for manipulating your husband and wife into doing something that you want them to do. That's not what it's for. Okay? These words of affirmation are to motivate their desire to do for you and do for the family. It's for motivation, not for manipulation. Okay? So words of affirmation, it goes deeper if you read the book. Okay, I have a link on the video at the bottom. If you go to the description, there'll be a link to the book and a link to the website so that you can get more familiar with this information. Okay, point B and final point. I'm going to break this first lesson into two parts. Tomorrow I'll do the second part, the love language number 1 with words, and this one is words of affirmation, and B, encouraging words. Okay, what is the definition of encouraging? Encouraging means to inspire courage. Okay, to produce courage in somebody else, to produce courage in yourself. Okay, what does courage do? What do encouraging words do? What are they meant to do? What are they purpose? What's the purpose of it? Of speaking something encouraging to your spouse? What it does, it actually literally addresses our insecurities. You and I, we all have insecurities that we have developed over years, over time. Be it because somebody caused us insecurity or because we brought it upon ourselves, regardless of. But encouraging words, the purpose of encouraging words is to inspire courage in us and to address and overcome the insecurities that have been developed inside of us. Okay? What does this do? What does this encouragement do for us when it helps us overcome our insecurities? It literally unlocks the potential that we have as individuals. Okay? When you speak words of encouragement to your wife, okay, or to your husband, you literally unlock their potential to do and become who they were supposed to become and to do what they're supposed to do. Okay? You and I both know that we all have gifts and we all have potential to do so much. Okay? And we literally have the key to unlock each other's potential by encouraging each other. Okay? And there's an element to encouraging that most of us don't understand. Okay? Encouragement should be spoken when desired. And I'll explain that in a little bit. Okay? So encouraging words unlock people's potential. For instance, my wife, Alana, who was watching and she can attest, you can ask her, she was very insecure and just would not and refused to go in the kitchen. She was very insecure, did not want to cook, because not because she didn't know how or really didn't want to. It was because she had an insecurity of whether or not her food was going to be good enough for her family, whether or not. And so these insecurities are developed by our own thinking, by other people's critical words, by other people's harsh words, whatever the case may be. But the fact is that insecurity was there. What I was successfully able to do was have a spirit and an attitude of appreciation that my wife was making an attempt to go in the kitchen, was showing interest. When Alana began to show interest to cook new foods that she had never even touched, or even spices that she had even heard of, I seen that interest. And that's when it's a perfect moment to begin to speak encouraging words into the life of somebody. When somebody is heavy, okay, for say a woman or your wife or your husband, when they're heavy, okay, but they're not showing any kind of motivation or desire to lose weight, husbands, that's not the time to go and tell your wife and give her words of encouragement to go to the gym and lose weight, because she doesn't have desire to, okay? Wrong time. Now, if she shares and says, hey, I really want to try to do something about my weight, then there's ways to encourage her by supporting her. And the same way with the situation with Alana, that was the perfect moment when she showed interest to want to jump in there. I said, hey, why don't you hook up with my mom? She can teach you some awesome recipes. Oh man, you'll be cooking some awesome food, but I can see it already. And every opportunity that I seen that she was excited about cooking, I would say, well, man, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Today, it's like, man, I want to put her up against, what's his name? Bobby Flay. I think she can go on to that show and beat Bobby Flay. I really do, man. Alana is an awesome cook. And so it opened up the potential for her to become an awesome cook. No. And today, my wife cooks probably a new dish every single day. Something awesome. And even when it's repeated, it's an awesome food, because she's made it, and she's made it with love and from her heart, and she gets in there and she has cookbooks all over the place and she actually uses them. And case in point, unlocked her potential. Again, it's encouraging words are not to manipulate your spouse to do something for you. Ari says tortilla soup. Awesome, huh? And it's not to manipulate your spouse to do something for you. Encouraging words are to inspire them. It's to unlock their potential, inspire them to do what they can do, but were too insecure to try. But now, because you've encouraged them, they're able and they're willing to jump in there, knowing that you're behind them. Okay, so listen for that desire. Okay, so in other words, that encouragement looks like this: babe, I know, I care, I am with you. How can I help you? When that moment of encouragement comes, that is what your encouragement should be saying. I know, I'm aware, I care about you, okay? I'm here with you, I'm supporting, I'm with you all the way. Tell me how I can help, okay? And so to finalize this and bring this to a close here, encouragement requires empathy, okay? It requires for us to put ourselves in their shoes, okay? And see the world from your spouse's perspective, okay? We must first learn what is important to our spouse before we try to come in there and encourage them. What do they care about? What means the most to them? What do they want? This is where intentionality comes. This is where your words matter. You need to learn what they care about, what they like, what they want, before you begin to effectively encourage them, before you effectively begin to affirm them. Okay? And there's a couple more. I'm going to cut this right here, part 1 of the first love language of words. I hope you're learning something. I hope you're grabbing something. This is awesome to me even right now as I'm reading. Please get the book, begin to read. And tomorrow I will see you here again at 1:15. And we'll continue with this first love language that we're talking about. Okay, God bless you all. Thank you guys for joining in. I love you guys. Take this word, let it sink into your hearts, and allow your life to become better and begin to do something good with your relationships. All right. Love you. Pray for me. God bless you guys. All right. Bye bye.